Hey, I'm Mayor Briton Williams. Join me as we explore everything North Augusta. We'll talk state of the city. We'll highlight our vibrant events and areas of the community, showcase our hidden gems, and promote the buzz on our local businesses and citizens. We will share and learn together about our amazing town and everything that makes us South Carolina's riverfront. Let's get started.
Down by the river where the stories unfold, come explore, see what you'll find.
Well, hey everybody, I'm really excited today for this episode because we are literally going to explore all things of the Brick Ponds or Brick Pond Park. And I'm excited because, it's really unique if you think to have the habitat and wetlands that we do really slap in the middle of our downtown and really development all around us. So I've got three great guests today. Each of these ladies are going to give us a perspective that I think at the end of the episode, not only are we going to become more informed, but I think we're going to have even a greater appreciation for what this habitat we have. It's a jewel, quite frankly. So to my right here is Ms. Tanya Strickland. Tanya is recently retired from the city of North Augusta. She headed up or supervised for our entire stormwater management department. And I will tell you, she has incredible affinity to the environment and really grasps the understanding of how development and growth, how that impacts our environment. So she is going to, I hope, give us some perspective of maybe kind of the little history of what was here before. And I think for all of us, I've really never have fully learned the story of the how, what, and why the city took on this initiative. So I'm excited about that. Welcome. Got Miss Sandy Zanko. Sandy does not have an official title, but I would tell you she's probably the unofficial citizen overseer of the Brick Ponds. She has spoken to our city council about her vision of how this really can become an educational opportunity. And Sandy, I'm really looking forward to you sharing that and maybe also educating us on some of the do's and don'ts that we've already seen just a few minutes before we even got started. So very appreciative of you being here. And the young lady at the far end, Miss Janice Krause, I like to call her the Bluebird Lady. She and her volunteers are very passionate about the bluebirds, and I think it's just going to give us a real interesting perspective of, for me and all of us, how that kind of relates to where we are and kind of how that started, what's it all about. I'm hoping at the end of this that not only do you maybe get some volunteers, but you get some folks who say, hey, I'd love to put a bluebird box, and what is that all about? So I think we've got a really diverse group of ladies that's going to give us a lot. So with that, we're going to jump right in. Welcome all of you to this episode. Start with you, young lady. Tell us, before we kind of get into the city initiative piece, maybe from your perspective, I know you were sharing before we started kind of what you knew about this when you were a kid, but maybe let's go, I want you to share a little of that. But if you don't mind, what is your understanding of what this area was all about in the early 1900s? With the Bain and pottery, the brick, Carolina tile and brick, with the water and the clay. So maybe kind of give us, for folks who don't know what was here, tell us a little history as far as what you know and kind of about how it's important to you.
I've learned a lot about the history of the park just through research and being involved in the development of the park and understanding some of the development issues. There had to be some studies done that were done, archaeological studies. There were historical studies of what was here in the past. So I have a pretty good understanding of that. We had quite a bit of development down here when James U. Jackson designed the city and his early, well, the Beck, Mr. Beck Platts, the Beck Platts, they had this area as the industrial area. And so it was. The train came through. We had brick manufacturers, we had cotton, we had People's Oil Company, and all of these buildings were in this area. The ponds were actually the remnants of the clay digging to make the bricks or make the pottery. There were pottery, the early Bainham pottery was here.
Right.
Here for a long time. It was here when I was younger. It was still in process up here on the hill. But there was even the Edgefield pottery way back, the really early Edgefield pottery, because all of this was Edgefield at one time, was being built or developed down here. So we found all of those information, we found it all. We've got a beautiful poster that we made about all of the industrial facilities. We used Sanborn maps to learn where they were exactly, and we found photographs through some of the arts and heritage people. And so it's really interesting how much industry was happening here. The floods, though, the dams were not built back then, and the floods would come and flood everything, and they would try to re-go and do it some more, and then it would flood again, and eventually they all abandoned the riverfront, and what was left were these clay pits, ponds. And we were able to document a lot of that. There's quite a bit of documentation and historical studies that are available if people are interested in that.
Huh. So they were actually excavated for the brick and the pottery, thus where they
Right.
Okay. Wow.
And you can see in the early pictures, you could actually see where the big heavy equipment would come in and scrape, and you could see it was small and it gets bigger. West Pond is a perfect example. You could see where they were actually pulling the clays out. It's a blue clay. It's a really interesting clay that is here, and that is what this area was 1900s and a little bit into the early 1900s, until they were all realized this was not the place to be, and most of them went up higher on the hill, and that's why Bainham pottery was still, because they were up here where the pavilion or the little gazebo is.
So that's why Hammond's Ferry has their blue clay.
Sure, absolutely. That is exactly where that name came from.
Okay.
Yes, the blue clay
I learned
farm.
something. I didn't know
and
that.
I've seen the
Okay.
blue clays when we were in here, and we didn't do a lot of changes other than making it better. But you could find the blue clays, especially when you dig around, you'll find them. It's very blue, yes. So that was the early part, and once it was abandoned, it just became a wasteland. And these ponds weren't connected to anything, so they had no oxygen. They didn't have a running creek running into them. So they were basically rainwater ponds, and they had very little life in them. Anything that lived in these ponds at that time were semi-aquatic animals that breathed air. Frogs and alligators, of course, and things that are still here today, turtles. Right. But we had no fish. The oxygen levels were zero in most of them. So what we were trying to do at the time was bring it back to life.
So what was that time frame from, the floods wiped out most of that industry? I know Bainham pottery was here probably in the mid 1900s. But when it became just basically like you just described, what was that time frame? Maybe share, when did the city kind of take an interest? And just walk us through the how, what, and why, because...
Well, when I was growing up, and as I said earlier before we started, I grew up on West Avenue, and these areas down here were heavily wooded, very uninhabitable. You could come down here. When I was a teenager, we would come down and shine for alligators. There were dirt roads that you could come back here, but it was not a place to be. It was very scary, and it was just not a place to be. So nobody came down here. So that was all the way up until the 70s.
Wow.
So there were probably 40 or 50 years that it was just dormant.
Okay.
There was a lot of industrial debris in the ponds, a lot of waste. There were the People's Oil Company. There was some old, above ground storage tanks that were disintegrated into the woods, and there was a lot of debris still in this area. But in the early or late 1990s, I guess, middle of 90s, 91, 90, 95, that's when the city took an interest. There was a push to bring the riverfront to the people, and that was such a great effort. And look what's happened when we have done that, right? So they held a lot of public meetings to find out what people would be interested in. The opportunity to buy all this property was actually on the table. And so the city, from what I understand, this was before I came to the city in the 2000s, they bought up all the land, and there was a dairy, back to the original, there was a dairy down here, so there were no trees in the Hammonds Ferry area. It was just an old farm field.
Sure.
And then the other side of the river club, the other side of the road here, it was like it was actually a dump. It was a city dump early on in those 40 or 50 years. There was a rendering plant. There were a lot of historical pollutants in this area. So when the community put that information together and had all of these charrettes, they called them, to meet with the public to see what they would like to see, one of the first things I think was the ability to access the river forever. And the city actually, made the Greenway Trail run along the riverfront, and that's something you don't see a lot of in some of these communities where the ownership of the riverfront is the people that own the homes down there. So that was one of the things. These areas, these ponds, were actually slated for development because they were non-jurisdictional, and that means that the state or the government was not overseeing these ponds, so you could develop them any way you wanted. You could fill them up, build houses on them. And in the original designs, whenever the city came to a design, that they met with several design engineers, they picked a design. The Hammonds Ferry Development Corporation was a part of that. They're the ones that won the bid, basically, to come up with a beautiful development. They were going to build along this whole side were going to be apartments, and the ponds on the other side of Center Street were going to be filled, and all those were going to be apartments and condominiums. And so this whole area was going to be developed except for this middle piece, which would have been basically a pond with a fountain in it, like you see in a lot of communities. But when we came on board, when the stormwater program came in 2003, there was a push at that time to do an environmental education component for the city. And also Bob Brooks was involved. He wanted to see this developed into a wetland pond. And then we met with those developers, and we came up with the idea of just restoring them to a beautiful park that the citizens could use. It would be amenities for the developers and the Hammonds Ferry Development Corporation. And we all came together and we pulled together and we decided, yes, let's do that. There were some caveats. All of that development that they were going to lose, because they bought the land from the city to develop it. You know more about that type of thing. They were going to lose all that real estate and potential. So the city, we all sat down, we had a big meeting, and we agreed to allow them to build higher on the riverfront, like these apartment buildings that are coming up. They're a little higher than we normally would have allowed. At that time, in response, they give us back all of this land. So that's really where the development ideas started. And to us, that was a win. So we got a grant to restore it, in perpetuity. It's preserved on this side through the grant that we got. And we basically came in and cleaned out all the debris, and we added features that would make it inhabitable. We added oxygen with the waterfalls, and these oxygen, you can see them out here. You don't see them, they're bubble aeration, they're under the water. We added oxygen so things could live in the water, and we circulate that water through a constructed wetland on the other side, and the constructed wetland removes the pollutants from the water. So it is an active stormwater treatment system, which is required by all developments that they have a stormwater system or some sort of stormwater treatment. And that was part of the stormwater program that happened in 2006 in South Carolina, that every development had to now not just build a pond that empties and fills up. A pond had to actually remove pollutants from the water before it released it for the first flush of rain. And so all ponds built since 2006 for any development have some sort of component that's going to treat the water. You'll see forebays and little wetlands in there, and it holds a little water. In North Augusta, we required it to be wetlands. This is a wetland treatment pond for all of the development, including the new municipal building. It's new to me, but the parking decks, all of the development on this side of Railroad Avenue comes into the treatment system and is treated before it's released to the river. And an interesting fact is the grant that we got for this development, or for the development of Brick Pond Park, was a grant from an oil spill that happened down off the coast of South Carolina. And it was a major tanker oil spill. In mitigation for that spill, they had to pay millions and millions of dollars to either the state or the federal government, I'm not sure. And the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation was to assist and give those grants to communities that could potentially have an impact on the river or the coastline. And Brick Pond Park is literally the largest wetland that I'm aware of, other than just swamps that are undeveloped, that discharges to the river all of the stormwater from up to Jackson Square, Waffle House, and below to this area.
40 acres roughly, right?
40 acres is the park, but the watershed that drains to this park is hundreds of acres. And it's downtown.
Okay.
Yes.
So that grant, I did not realize that. So all this was done through a grant through the state.
National Fish and Wildlife Foundation.
Okay, I'm assuming that was a pretty lengthy process.
It was. It was several years. I mean, we had to get together and decide we were going to do it. And then we were able to acquire the grant, and we were very fortunate because we're kind of far from the coast, but we know that the North Augusta and Augusta area are impacting the waters, and if we can do, they agreed. They gave us the money, and it took from 2006 to 2008 to install the wetlands. And we had a groundbreaking ribbon cutting in 2008. That's when the park opened in 2008.
Okay. Wow. So it's kind of interesting because earlier you talked about a couple things, thinking as elected official. It's amazing that the initial conversation about development and growth of the river led the city down a way with public input to make this be a part of it.
Right, right.
Because if everything had been left as it is, the reality, we would not be.
No, we wouldn't be down.
We would not be having this podcast. Right?
No, we wouldn't be.
So it is interesting that proof positive that if it's done properly, growth and development can steer and open up opportunities.
Absolutely. It's one of the big things that happened when we built the parking deck. They had to dig down in those soils. Well, people used to trash dump on the hillside. When I was a kid, I mean, you could walk down the street and you get too close to the edge, you'd see all the trash. And it was still there. So when we built the parking deck, the city parking deck, that parking deck dug through all that trash and all those, that pollution basically from 50 or 60 years. And we had this young student from Augusta State doing a special project. We asked him to test the water pre and post. And so he tested the water before we built the parking deck that goes into it, into our brick pond, because that is a little stream that goes into the brick pond. And the level of pollutants was really high. I mean, it was very alarming, actually. And after the parking deck was built and we had to dig all that trash out, you test it now and it's non-detect. And the treatment system is actually working. We've always tested what come off the streets and what comes off the bridge, because there's a big flow coming off the bridge coming down Georgia Avenue. And those pollutant levels are significant. But when you test it after it's gone through the system, they're non-detect, meaning zero pollutants are still in the water. So that's what's leaving. So wetlands are an amazing treatment system for pollution. And that's the way it's been.
Wow. Well done.
Yeah. So we've removed a lot of the pollutants that were here.
Okay, that's fantastic.
And now we have a healthy ecosystem.
I say it's very healthy.
It is. It is.
You know, and that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That kind of actually, I want to lead into Sandy about the healthy ecosystem. I was tongue-in-cheek about calling you the overseer of Brick Pond Park, but you are here all the time. Just share, if you would, any comments you want to take from what she said, but really take the fact that you know how special this place is, and it's dear to your heart. And I know the city has done some with Youth Earth Day and some educational, but I know, and you made it very clear to us in council, that we have not really addressed, quite frankly, the potential of the educational opportunity. So I'm gonna just kind of open it up to you to kind of share where your vision. Any comment you want to make what Tanya said, but just from there, I'll share your vision of, you know, what do we need to start having conversations about moving forward to truly what this could be for our citizens.
Okay. So I will say I get to enjoy the pleasure of all your hard work in creating this little paradise in the heart of our city, which is truly unique and has great potential. For me, coming down here at least once, twice a day, if not more, the variety of wildlife is just amazing. And you see it fluctuate depending on what's going on. So I guess with some of the construction, numbers went down, but this past year we saw the owls come back. We had Mississippi kites here mating. We found the killdeer with a nest over on the far path, which was fascinating to see. So for me, I guess coming here, it's always an adventure and a learning experience. And that's where I guess I see the educational aspect, especially with children, to come down and explore and discover and learn what's in their community. Whether it be something as simple as finding the tadpoles over on the boardwalk on the other side. There's we call that the rainforest. There's always the green frogs on the irises. You will see snakes over there more than most places around here. But I just feel like there's so much to learn, and I've met people from here locally, as well as from out of state or other countries, but that are like, well, I just come and walk, so it's getting people to come and pause and, take in the stillness and just breathe and just discover.
Well, I love it. So how would we how do we make that? How do we take your passion, your excitement, what do you see that looking like as far as to start moving down the path of education?
I still have the hope and desire that we could have a small educational center here. I think the hurricane might have helped us out there with a few spots that are vacant now.
Okay.
And with that, I know online on the city's website, there's like the list of native plants that are found down here, as well as the wildlife. So whether it be like, having kids come down and doing like scavenger hunt. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. And then also I've seen activities done down here when the rec center did the day camp, where they taught the kids about the importance of the stormwater. So whether it be school field trips or homeschooling, come here to learn about the, where does the water come from? And they started out talking about, like, when you flush your toilet, do you know where that water goes and what happens to it when it, reaches the river? And then it was also taking samples out of the ponds to look at what organisms or living things are living there, no matter how small or how big. So I see things like that. I think the education center would also be valuable. Like we were talking about the number of people here this morning, having a login book of where they're coming from. Because as I said, I've met people from Russia, Belgium, Washington State, Oklahoma, whatever, and how they find this place, I never thought to ask. My first question is, where are you from? So I've just more recently saying, what brought you here? Because I feel like this is just a gem in the city with, so much to offer.
One of the education, that was part of the program. This is an education center for the stormwater program. So for many years, we had all the fifth graders in the city come 4 or 5 times a year. But in 2020, when COVID happened, that stopped. And the schools have been reluctant or they've never gotten back to coming. But an education center was something we always wanted, as a program. Reed Creek in Columbia County, something like that.
Yes, that's what I thought. Maybe not
the original
to that
developers
scale,
and I went to Reed Creek to look at it, to look at the opportunity that we might have there. But of course, everything, there's a lot going on in the city.
Sandy, let me ask you, I don't think this, so I think I know the answer to my question, but would there be value in, is there, I think of, on the Greenway, there is a group called the Frogs, Friends of the Greenway. And I just don't know, is there a group that, I guess what I'm trying to think in my brain, next steps as far as, how does that, is there a group that could help in that endeavor? But not just you and Janice can't do everything.
Yes.
But I've just found through like the Miracle League Field Project, the Wrecking Crew,
right.
When you have a group that are passionate and they're able to get that vision out to the community, and doesn't mean that the city can't be a part of it, but not necessarily got to be everything. The collaboration piece,
right?
Because I would think that the people that care about this, they probably have resources that want to be a part of that in some form or fashion. So
yes, my
response
to that is yes.
Okay.
And we may already have that group, in the sense that in coming down here myself, I have met many people, but there's like a small group of us that are regulars, I call us, that are down here usually every morning and are very passionate about the park. And, we all voice our visions to one another, as well as we entertain playing tour guide. So we may be by ourselves or as a group and run into Tanya, and she's like, hey, this is the first time I'm here. I've never seen a great blue heron, or I've never seen an alligator. And we're like, okay, well, let us show you. So yes, I think there's potentially already that group.
Okay. Well, guess what? I think I have a job for you in retirement, man. I think you could be a great resource in doing it. But so we need to think about that. We need to figure out a way to maybe initially get y'all together.
Okay.
I think we need to begin that initial conversation and get together. And I'd love for you to participate with that, and maybe just start some brainstorming, because we definitely have got to. It may be, sometimes you take a step forward before you start running.
Right.
And like you said, just the fact that we haven't, the educational piece that used to be doing up until COVID is no longer happening.
It's still happening, it's just on a much smaller scale.
So again, there's some things. So anyway,
and the school's on different times.
So maybe some type of official nonprofit structure. Anyway, so I think that's exciting.
Yeah.
And that is true that, Finnessy Center is a perfect example. It's a constructed wetland for wastewater treatment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so their program is, the Augusta is a MS4, small stormwater permittee. They're a large permittee. They actually pay Finnessy Center to do all their education and outreach as part of their stormwater program. So it's a very similar situation. And when we were built in Brick Pond Park, we used the researchers at the Finnessy Center to develop and determine whether it was feasible and it would be possible to build a park. and they actually came and monitored the water levels to see what everything, and so they're part of this as well. So their researchers were actually part of the developers. And our development team, the Hammonds Ferry Development Corporation, partnered with us. And so the city only paid $167,000 for our part, and they paid over $300,000 or $400,000 for their part in to build the park. So a partnership is a perfect tie-in for an education center.
Good. Okay, that's exciting. Okay.
And I think part of the education piece, there needs to be a piece on, respecting and safety down here at the ponds with the wildlife, especially the alligators. I'm down here so much, I see a lot of things happen that I would prefer not to. But, trying to remind people about, respecting their space, don't feed them, don't harass them, and we can coexist without any...
Well, we were talking about that all before we started, and I was down here early, and right behind us, there was a group, and they were getting pretty close to take pictures, and we were really close to the pond, and I'm thinking to myself, and you said the reason there was that little path there was actually the gator.
Yes.
Doing that. And I'm sitting there thinking, boy, one slip, we've had some rain, one slip, and some of the pictures you've sent us, people literally laying down, getting pictured next to it.
Yes.
It's crazy. So we definitely need to consider getting a sign over there for sure. But yes, there's just, we need to educate people. It sounds like common sense, but we know that's not common.
Right.
It's uncommon often. Okay, good. Well, thank you. That's fantastic. Ms. Janice, I liked, well, I was very surprised that y'all had not met because your passion about the bluebirds and kind of how I not knew about you. I had met you before, but you also, I came to one of our public power hours and promoting the bluebird boxes. And I remember I left there that night and I told my wife, Jenny Lynn, about y'all's initiative because, my mother-in-law loved nature. She instilled nature in my wife, Jenny Lynn, and loved actually bluebirds. So when we talked about that, we said, it's a no-brainer. We need to get a bluebird box, and we have one in other pond in memory of my mother-in-law. So just talk to us about how your involvement, how these ladies have shared how they found out about this place. How did that happen for you? Where did the bluebird piece come in? The group you have working with you. Just kind of tell us all things about the bluebird.
Okay. Well, let me start with, I was bicycling along the Greenway when it was first opened. I remember the Quonset hut down here, and we used to go down to get in the tunnel to get across Martintown Road before the bridge was built, and so it was a long time. Came from Augusta and decided to move over here in 2011 because of this wonderful amenity here.
Wow, okay.
And so we've lived here since then. And so in 2011, we moved to Hammond Hills, and at the house, there was a bluebird nest in the backyard. There was a note on the countertop left for me, bluebirds nesting in the back. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know anything about bluebirds. And so I started doing some research. And I joined the South Carolina Bluebird Society, which had started in Aiken. And so I got very involved in that. And I also joined the Friends of the Greenway, Frogs, so the original group. And one night we were just talking, and it came together that, okay, we could start a bluebird trail on the Greenway. Let's get it make it official with South Carolina Bluebird Society, and Frog would help collect it, pay for it, get it started. We wanted to have dedicated boxes, so we could tell people, you can, put a plaque on in memory of, or whatever you wanted. And so that's how it got started in 2015, so it's been 10 years.
Okay.
I started with 10 boxes, just at the beginning here, down by where the butterfly garden is now, and up to Center Street, really, was where the first 10 were. And then, let's see, in 2015, 2017, we added 3 more. people got more excited about it. 2018, I'm like, I can't do any more monitoring because it's quite a commitment. Once a week from March 1st to September 1st, you know, we check, look in the boxes, see what's going on, record everything, and give our data to the South Carolina Bluebird Society, which then gets rolled up into the state data and gets sent to Cornell, part of the ornithology group. So we're a big part of the national picture of what's going on with bluebirds.
Wow.
Cavity nesters, really. We don't kick anybody else out if they want the box too. You know, so there's Carolina wrens, Carolina chickadees, and tufted titmice. They're all secondary cavity nesters. They can't build their own cavities, so they used to build in old woodpecker holes in trees. And with loss of habitat, in the late 70s, bluebirds were almost extinct. So the whole national bluebird effort started around then to really, you know, help propagate and promote bluebirds with nest boxes.
Okay.
So that's what we do. We put up nest boxes to help them out, and it's pretty successful. I've already had 10 babies fledge this year.
Oh, wow.
And that's for what's the time frame? You said May?
March 1st is when we start. They start house hunting in February, really, but March 1st to September 1st. And a bluebird can build up to 3 nests in a season. So we can have 15 birds from one pair of bluebirds sometimes.
Did I'm going to ask you a dumb question, ignorant question. Were the bluebirds already around and we just complemented their continued growth with the boxes, or did the boxes actually help them flourish to come here to nest?
Well, there are native bluebirds here. They stay here all year long. There are some that also come down from the north that will nest here in the summer.
In this area?
Mm-hmm. So we have 2 different groups, but we're helping them, you know,
Yes.
with, so we do have natives, but we also have visitors. So
Okay.
and this effort is really all over the country. So NABS is the National Bluebird Society. All of our state, they call us, you know, affiliates, so we all report up. And if you join the Bluebird Society, the national one, NABS it's called, there's a magazine that comes out. You can see all the different states that have Bluebird Societies. The South Carolina Bluebird Society, I believe, started in 2010. And we're now all over the state of South Carolina.
Wow.
Last year, we fledged in the state alone over 6,000 bluebirds,
Wow.
which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So how many volunteers, how many folks are helping you?
I have 4 other people helping me right now. We have 41 boxes total on the Greenway and in the brick ponds. We added the brick pond part in 2019. A Boy Scout troop wanted to help build the boxes, so one of our members of SCBS gave them the plans so they could make the boxes, just like they're specific size holes, you
Right.
know, and then we encourage them to be on metal poles with baffles to keep predators away. And, you know, so our website is very active, southcarolinabluebirds.org. And right on there, there's all kinds of information about bluebirds. You can buy a box and a baffle and a pole on the website. You can contact me. I'm now the secretary of the board of directors.
And you're looking for volunteers.
Just buying a house.
You're looking for volunteers, aren't you?
Well, in order to expand, like I said, we have 41 boxes now, and everybody's maxed out in terms of their monitoring. And we go from, you know, over here by the Butterfly Garden all the way to the Martintown Road Bridge and the brick ponds. So if we want to expand, it's going to have to be on the other side of Martintown Road going forward, you know, further. And we'd need some volunteers for monitoring. And we would need to train them, and we'd encourage them to belong to the society.
So the volunteers you have, how did they come up? I mean, so how do we get volunteers? How do we get that word out?
It's mostly word of mouth.
Okay.
You know, sometimes somebody will see me checking a box and say, oh, I'm interested in that, you know. Or, like I said, the South Carolina Bluebird Society website has a lot of information, and there's actually a form on there, a jot form, I'd like to volunteer.
But we don't have any kind of pamphlets or anything up anywhere like here to where a person could take a pamphlet. I mean, that would fit in perfect with the education piece.
Center. Yes, yes, yes.
You see, I led into that for you. Appreciate that. I know. But what I'm saying is people sit here, but there's not like a box that even with a pamphlet. that could be?
No, because this is the first I've heard about it. We knew of the boxes, but I did not know that there was a group monitoring and keeping track of. And
Wow, that's
So-
amazing.
And we named it after a former First Lady, Barbara S. Green. So
Yes.
the name of the trail is the Barbara S. Green Bluebird Trail. And we broke it into parts. So we have A, B, C, D, E, which is part of the
Wow.
large trail. Each person monitors their own little piece.
Well, you know, I asked Rick Meyer, our director of Parks and Rec, just the other day, as a matter of fact, because I was wondering, I asked him, because, you know, if you go down Cypress and turn right, that's where Barbara Green's, the plaque is, in honor of her, Mayor Tom Green's wife, of course, former mayor. But he said they have taken the plaque to redo it, to fix it up, because I think there probably was a little damage. So I can't wait till that gets put on again. But very interesting. Okay, that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Down by the tunnel, there's a sign. It's really faded now in the sun. That's what happens to all signs around me, right? But it talked about the development of the Bluebird Trail and Barbara S. Green and her love of bluebirds. And we plan to make that a little shorter and put them in the new kiosks that North Augusta Forward's working on
Yes.
to replace.
What? So how many bluebird boxes are actually within the ponds?
10.
10. Through all of them, or just over the one that?
No, there's one right behind you over there.
There is. Okay.
One over here, one where I parked over by the new building back here, and there's 5 on the other side, I believe, or 4.
yeah, we've seen the birds in and out.
Yeah,
They're busy.
they're busy. They are.
Michaela's still doing these boxes.
Well, she has a new environmental tech, Brooke, I think her name is, and she's doing those.
Michaela.
Yes.
Michaela
Brooks,
started
They do these.
this brick pond. She was the monitor for the brick ponds, and now she has a new environmental tech who's doing it.
So Brooks doing it.
We're very fortunate to have her. You trained her good, but she's as about passionate as you
She
get.
is, very much.
She's a great asset for this community, really for the city, but also for this community. Wow, I think we all learned something.
We did.
Yes,
I know.
definitely.
That's what this is all about, this episode. So let me just ask you maybe, so here we are in 2025. And I think hearing about, I mean, we can hear hammering, okay? And I think
Yes.
there's going to come a point, there will be, where we won't be hearing that anymore, which is good. But anyway, what from your perspective, each of you, I want to hear from each of you. Janice, I'm going to start with you. Your perspective, what is a concern or the opportunity, or what do we need to be aware of moving forward? Because this is an incredible asset, right? I mean, we have shared that. I think we all know that.
Yes.
And very unique,
Very unique.
and we need to keep it that way. So is there anything, your words of wisdom, that if you were passing down, that we need to hear from your perspective to keep this the way it is, if not only make it better?
Well, I think that educational piece is really important. We've had some vandalism off and on. Somebody will open a bluebird box and take a nest out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, we need to.
We don't have cameras, do we?
Don't think so.
There may be
No.
some cameras.
Maybe. A few hidden somewhere. Okay.
But just that's not an appropriate thing to do. It's like lying next to
Right.
an alligator.
yes.
you know?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, we're trying to help the birds. We don't want to hurt the
Right.
birds.
Education.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's the most important thing. It's starting with young kids. Because,
Okay.
Yes.
they
definitely.
need to learn from ground up.
Yeah, so I agree with the education piece in a lot of respects. Like I say, just helping to, I guess, educate the children to respect and be safe around wildlife. I've encountered families here. This was a couple weeks ago. They were over having a picnic, and the children are at the edge. The young gators were on the logs, and they're throwing things at them. And I try and bite my tongue, because I had a bad confrontation with a gentleman who was throwing a loaf of bread to the juvenile gators here the other day. But I stopped and I said, you know, hey, hope you're enjoying your picnic and all. I said, can you please have your children not do that? We asked them, they're just kids. I'm just like, really? So, but I know that was a far stretch, but I think the education piece is critical. And also, and I know I've mentioned this and I don't know quite how we do it, but I think just having some kind of a presence down here, and I don't know what that presence would be. You know, having somebody, and again, I know I've asked about North Augusta Public Safety, you mentioned DNR, but I think if people know that there's somebody that might be passing through, they may hesitate and think before they do. I don't know. That's my hope.
Yeah.
You know.
A brick pond ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know I have called North Augusta when I see things, but they are quick to respond. Where it might, I say 10 minutes, but that 10 minutes might be enough that those people have
Person
since
left.
moved on and they come down and you know I feel like I've wasted their time.
Okay.
But you know, and with that, I think word of mouth. Like if it happened enough where somebody did get a warning or something about fishing or feeding or harassing any wildlife, not just the alligators, that the word may get around and people, again, might be more hesitant. But
Do we have, I think there's 19 some odd signs. Do we have a sign that says no feeding?
yes,
We do have that.
there's signs about the no feeding, no fishing,
But
other
let me
than the
ask-
West Pond.
So
but
let me ask you this. Are there patterns, meaning, I guess my question is, you can have 50 signs out,
yes,
but if we have 50 signs, not in the best location. So where that guy is right now behind us, okay, I don't know if there's a sign there. I don't think so.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
There's a kiosk over there.
There is when you come in the West Pond parking lot.
No, there's one on the island.
Oh yes, there is right there. Yes,
Yeah,
that
on
is
there.
right.
But what I'm
That's
saying,
where the signs
I'm just wondering, like where these kids are feeding. I mean, I'm just asking. We need to make sure we are putting signs in where they need to be. Maybe
Right.
they are,
And-
but I
right,
don't know.
because like I say here, you got the two signs saying no fishing, but people are up here all the time with their fishing
Fishing, yeah.
rods. And I appreciate the kiosks,
Yeah,
but
I know.
how often does somebody stop and look at them? Because then I don't know if they've gotten removed yet, but there was a household waste schedule sign from 2023 in there that's been sitting in there. I think it's since been removed, but
I hope so.
I'm sure Brooke is on
and
that.
Okay.
there is a new sign in there about calling, I think it's DNR, about the alligators. But again, I wouldn't have known to look for that if I wasn't made aware that was put in there.
And there are DNR signs in the park too. To tag along, the education component is critical. We did have animal feeding when the park first opened, and people were looking at it as a feed the ducks park. People were bringing ducks. City council and stormwater and several of us got together and they passed a law, no feeding animals in this park at all. It's against the law. And we've got those signs to say that, but it's an ordinance that was passed specifically for Brick Pond Park because we were seeing, sitting in our office, the children jumping out of cars, running down to feed the ducks, and one step away from the alligators who
Right.
are also standing there going, where's mine? So education is very critical. That we do have kiosks in the park, we do have signage. We've added more signage. We don't want to have sign pollution on top of everything else.
Right.
So having a presence here in the park would be amazing. But some of the big things that I've noticed since the park has been open, and some of the big things since development has increased and more people live down here, is we've had some, algae bloom in West Pond last year, and that is a result of animals. It's what we're seeing, the people walking their dogs and not picking up the poop. We tested the water going in West Pond. We tested the storm drains, and the level of fecal coliform and E. coli was tremendously high. And we're still not 100% that it's just the animals. It could have been the fertilization of all the grass in the middle of the fields before all the houses started being built for the middle section.
Okay.
But the bottom line is there are more people here,
Yes.
more people living here, more people surrounding the park, which was always the design. But we have to educate everyone here, visitors, homeowners, people that live here, people that live in the apartments that are coming in,
Yes.
that this is a park that can become toxic from human activity.
Do we have doggy
We do.
poop bags?
We have them. You can see. You know, it's volume. It's volume
Right.
at this point. It's not necessarily it's just the amount of the people, the number of people has increased, so the volume is now at a point where everyone has to be conscientious.
Right.
And if there's nothing else to be said, everyone that loves this park, that enjoys walking along its banks, needs to be considering what piece of paper they may drop, what food they may throw in. Food thrown into the ponds is counterintuitive. The whole project was to create oxygen in the water, create treatment system, and if you're adding nutrients by throwing food in it, you're creating a problem.
So let me ask you this. Would there be a benefit to having an event to invite people to an event to
Learn about it.
learn about it? Almost like, hey, in the evening, on a beautiful night, you know what I'm saying?
To teach them to be good stewards
Right.
of the place. And the trash problem is, it's really ridiculous.
Oh, definitely. Behind the parking garages, and that's where I'm.
And that can be wind blown. That can be wind blown.
But there was, I mean, the last time we did a big cleanup, I mean, there was satellite dishes, computer towers.
Oh yeah, we did that. Well, we had a big
Diapers.
cleanup when we did the trash bash.
So,
Yeah, oh, yeah, I
so
know.
you know, my fear with these apartments being right on top of the ponds is just gonna increase.
But could there be, I'm just throwing out an idea. So would it even make sense at some point, give me 1 second, to, when these apartments get filled up, how awesome would it be to invite those residents? Hey, we're having we're having an event here at Brick Pond Park. Come on out and learn, because these people aren't going to know about it.
Right.
I'm just saying, I'm trying to think outside how we do that.
I think that's a great idea. I do think also that educating homeowners through when they come to get their water turned on, I don't know how the apartment systems work, but they get information at that time, especially people that are living around it. Some cities give out a package, Welcome to North Augusta, and it gives you information. It doesn't need to be inundated with tons of information, just some of the key factors. When I was in Hilton Head, they have a green book, and I've always thought that would be a great idea for this area, is every resident gets a green book, and it talks about Hilton Head, the wildlife, the alligators, and all of the things. And I got one when I was staying there just for a week one time, and it was a great document to give people that information. We were having Earth Day here. Earth Day was a big festival we had every year at Brick Pond Park. And that hasn't started back up since 2020 in a good big way. But that was a great opportunity because we brought all the agencies here,
Right.
DNR and everyone, to talk about water quality and stormwater. But the people that come to Earth Day and the people that care are the people that are probably not doing that.
See, I think that's where, if we need to get an initial meeting, Sandy, and of course, y'all all three need to be there, and bring your folks and volunteers and start, let's say we say our dream or vision is a center, okay? Well, that ain't gonna happen tomorrow. But what can we begin to do stepwise? The idea of the green book, what would that look like? How would that be? Is that a project? For example, there is a foundation, we have the Beautification Foundation.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm making up a number. Let's say it will cost $10,000 to make X number of these, whatever the green book is. I don't even know what it looks like. But what I'm saying is there's a possible funding source. What I'm saying is, what I'm hearing, okay, as your mayor, as a citizen, is we've got passionate people, but the reality is everyone's kind of doing their own silo. Didn't even know, okay? Everything is noble, everything is good. If we really are, and what I'm hearing is collectively, because we're all talking, this is an asset that we need to preserve.
Right.
Oh, definitely.
And with the growth that's happening, and it is happening and going to happen with development, what does that look like? So if anything, to me, this is a wake-up call to where we need to start thinking strategically, and the city can't do it all. We need insights and guidance from passionate citizens who are more knowledgeable about it. But this is the time that we need to start getting people together, and let's start strategically start thinking what are our next steps. I'm
That's a
excited.
good start.
Yep.
I'm excited. Well, I'm gonna tell you, this is, I told you, I knew this would be an exciting episode, and I'm more excited than ever. And I wanna thank each of y'all for taking the time. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your knowledge. And, but I hope this episode, we get it out there. You know, I want us to come back down the road and be able to say, hey, you know, here's some things we talked about, and let's start making. I'm all about baby steps, and I'm hearing some baby steps that I think we can get some consensus from council, administration. So I'm excited about what that looks like. So again, thank y'all for everything and all things exploring this episode of the Brick Pond Park. It's exciting.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Down by the river where the stories unfold, North Augusta's got a heart of gold, a hidden gem, one of a kind. Come explore, see what you'll find. Catch a ball game, hear the cheer. Events held throughout the year. Take a stroll where the greenway winds. Feel the history, let it shine. Or don't just visit, come and stay. Feel the magic every day.